Okay, so we just had a lecture on some review for terminology, and we talked about this level of significance. And this is going to be really important. Right now we just called it alpha, and we say basically alpha is going to be that 5% level. But in order to make a decision, if 5% is the place in which we are unlikely or not supporting the null, we have to have something to compare it to. So we're going to get that value, and it's called the p-value. You've actually been finding p-values since chapter 6. Okay, so you're going to look some stuff up in the table, and that p actually stands for percentage or probability. And what it does is the p-value is going to tell you how likely the data, or in other words, the evidence, is assuming. So we have all these assuming things, okay? So assuming the null and all other assumptions are true. So this assumption is not a proof, okay? We are just assuming things, knowing that we could make an error. We could either make a type 1 error or a type 2 error. So essentially what we're going to be looking at back to these curves and determining likely or unlikely that I land here, that my evidence would land there, assuming the null and this normal distribution are true. So again, with any assumption, you're going to have this idea that, oh, I could have made an error. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare. So my alpha level is really my cutoff. All right? So if something is less likely, that means it's going to land in this area, which is less than 5%. This is less likely. So it's not supporting. Anything on this side is we're going to deem likely, even though you might not think 6% is likely in statistics, we're going to say it's likely. So we are going to support the null. So it all is based on this idea of a p-value. And so what's going to happen is this. You're going to find your z-score. You're going to look it up. Let's suppose my z-score lands here. I look it up in the table, and I'm measuring the space or the likeliness that I would land here. Let's suppose my p-value is 3%. So I'm thinking about this 5%. 3% is less likely than 5%. 5 is my cutoff. If I'm at 5 or anything below, I'm not supporting the null. My evidence is not supporting my assumption. So if I'm down here at 3%, this is not supporting the null. So essentially you're just comparing things on a number line. If I had this curve and I was here and this was 10%, that's my p-value. And my alpha we're not going to change. We're always going to leave it as a 5%. Thinking about the number line, if this is 5%, 10% is up here. It's in the support null range. Okay, my data or my evidence is supporting my assumption or my null. So that's what's happening when you're doing this comparison. And just think about a number line and where you might land. So once I've made this decision mathematically, we have to write it up. Okay, and we'll be doing a lot of this. So we're just going to kind of get like this little template that we can use. So essentially what we're going to say, at the 5% alpha level, we need to state what level we're comparing the p-value at. I should probably capitalize that. At the 5% level, the data, which is my evidence, is either going to support or not support. We're going to make a choice. We're going to make that choice based upon the comparison to alpha. So I must state my alpha level. So at that 5% alpha, the data or the evidence I collected supports or does not support with a p-value of whatever you report. Okay, Okay? And what am I supporting or not supporting? The claim, which is H naught. So it's going to read, at the 5% level, the data supports or does not support. You have to make that decision. It either is going to support or not support with a p-value of 10%, the claim. There are 15 chips per chocolate cookie, whatever we claim. So we'll be writing this a lot. So this is just a template that you can use to put your conclusion together. You need the alpha, you need the p-value, and what is you're doing, and what is it you're doing on. Is it chocolate chips? Is it weight of the chip packages? What is it that you are not supporting or supporting?